Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity. My name is Ben Fernandez, and I'm going to share with you an audio clip from February 20th, 2020 of my senior year. His name is Zach Van Osdel. He started a prayer club here at the school in my sophomore year. I started coming to that. I didn't want to miss a single one, so I tried to come every single time. And then eventually, after a little bit, that small little prayer group my sophomore year turned into something called Club 412. And that's something that I do every single Wednesday, and we'll give off to our leaders next year that are not seniors and graduating, and I'll give that to them next year. And then I would end up leading Club 412 with another guy. His name is Ben Wood, and another girl. Her name is Tyra Chester. And I would lead that Club 412, my junior year, and now I lead it my senior year. And I led it my junior year with 3 people, and my senior year I lead it with 13 people. Our attendance at Club 412 has increased 600% from my junior year. We used to get regularly about 5 to 6 people coming to Club 412, and now we get regularly 30 to 40. I get to see people getting saved every week. I get to see people getting Bibles every week. I get to see people's lives getting completely transformed every single week, and the numbers are increasing every single time, and the leaders that we have increase every single leaders meeting that we have every time. I just love the Lord so much. I really do. And He loves me so much. And a lot of students don't know that. And it hurts my heart to think that students don't know that they are loved by their Heavenly Father that loves them better than any father on this earth ever could. That was my heart then, and that's my heart now. And since then, ending my senior year, we have 22 recorded salvations of people giving their lives completely to Jesus. That's just the ones that we have recorded for my senior year. It continued to go up to 40 to 50, even 60 at one time on an average that we would have for Club 412. And my school was only 500 people. At the end of the day, really, the numbers aren't what matter. It's the hearts that were changed by it. I started school at College Place High School freshman year, and I made some friends pretty quick. And looking back on it now, every single friend that I made when I first came to high school didn't know Jesus. But now, as a senior, they all know Jesus. One of my favorite stories, there's this one girl that came into Club 412, and she got her life completely transformed. And then she came to youth group that night, and these were her exact words that she shared with me at youth group. She said, "I only came in for the donuts, and I went in there a complete devout atheist. And then I left honestly not knowing anymore what I believed." At the end of my first trimester of my senior year, we started something for Club 412 called the Club 412 Dinner. One of the most powerful things from that dinner, I will never forget, my friend, I won't say his name, but he told me this, and he told everybody in the group. The dinner was about 20 people. And he said, "Guys, I'm going to be 100% honest. When I started this school year, I was so depressed. I didn't see any purpose in life, and I felt so alone. But then I started coming to Club 412, and God came into my situation and showed me how much He loved me. And I met you guys, and then I actually got real friends that loved me and cared about me, and I didn't even know that was possible." Just because you lead and you're in a spot of leadership, It's so funny. We always think that people are perfect if they have the leadership position in a church or something like that. Well, this leader had a very big struggle with alcohol. And I just remember I had such a powerful moment with him where he had kept it from me for so long. And he finally was just like, Ben, I want to be done with this. I'm so sick of drinking and it never helps and it always ends up badly. Please help me. I don't know what to do. And he was drunk and he's sitting in my room and he's crying his eyes out. And I told him, I want you to bring me all your alcohol bottles. And he brought them out to me. And I looked him in the eyes and I was like, you pour this out on the ground right now and it's done. So he took the alcohol bottle, poured it on the ground, and I just prayed for him. And I was like, this is it. Lord, you see this. This is his moment. It is over, and it is finished. Every morning after our first period of the day, we would meet at the vending machines outside the lunchroom doors, and we would pray for our school, and we would pray for each other, and we would pray for our students and our teachers, and for so many different things. And we did that every single day together as a club and as just the fellow believers in the high school. And we did it together. It was so powerful. And I just remember my one friend, his name was Dylan Arnold, and he said this: every single morning we spend the first 2 hours of our day, and it's like, wow, man, I'm so tired and I already don't want to finish off the day, but then I get to come to prayer with you guys and I just get strength, and it gives me what I need to get through the rest of the day. I remember for one trimester we did this thing where we called it the send. We would have certain people stay in one spot by the vending machines, and then we would send certain people to go out and just hear the voice of the Lord. And then the people that stayed at the vending machines would pray for the people that went and were sent out. I remember one of those send moments that I had with my friends as we were in the hallways and asking the Lord what he'd like to do. I remember God so strongly telling me, Ben, I want you to share your testimony and the gospel with this kid over here, and I want you to ask him if he wants to accept Jesus into his heart. So I went up to this kid, and I stand there in the middle of the hallway while everybody's watching, and I just share my testimony. Like, man, dude, I was so depressed, and I was doing all these things, bro. I didn't see any purpose behind life, and I was so hurt and so broken. And then after all of that, Jesus came in and he changed my life, man. And I figured out that he loves me and I love him, man. And he set me free, and he gave me breakthrough in these different areas of my life. And he gave me friends and a purpose to live. And I got to share all those things with him, and it was like life being implanted on the inside of him. And he was talking with me and I was talking with him, and I was just like, man, do you want to know this Jesus guy that I'm talking about? And he was like, yeah, I want to know Jesus like you're talking about. And so right there and then, in the middle of the hallway, he accepted Jesus into his heart, and I got to pray that prayer with him. I remember in my junior year, I kept praying, God, would you rise up another Christian club in my high school that would be seeking you and after you and reaching students? Out of that prayer, the Lord birthed something called Life Chat, which was led by a girl. Her name is Audrey Reeves. And they would talk about life and then pray for each other during lunch on Tuesdays. And since my junior year, and a little bit the end of my sophomore year as well, all through my senior year, this girl, Audrey Reeves, just went for it. And she was so obedient to the Lord, even if it was just one person that came. So when I was picking my classes for senior year, I had the opportunity to choose an English class and then another elective, or I could take a class called Studio 57. I decided to take Studio 57, and it was probably the best decision of my high school career, and I got to be a part of doing a project year long, 2 hours every day of anything that I wanted. And I knew that the Lord wanted me to do my project about prayer. And I had a bunch of different ideas. Some of them I couldn't do, some of them I could do. And the ones that I could do, I just ran with them. They let me pray the last hour of every single school day from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And it was so real because I got to spend 5 hours a week praying for other people and for other people's needs. And then the first hour that I would spend before I would go into the prayer room, I would spend talking with teachers and talking with students. How are you? What's going on at home? How's your family? How are your finances? How's your husband, your wife? I got to talk with teachers and students about stuff like that and be real with them. And I got to take those things to the prayer room. I could see and talk with the teachers the next week after I'd prayed 5 hours for them. And then they would tell me, this happened in my family, Ben. This is totally different. That person that was in the hospital got out a couple days early. Ben, my arm was like this because I got injured from doing something, and now it's completely fine. And then sometimes I would be so blessed to be able to pray for them right then and there when they tell me, and then crazy things would happen. I think another important thing to add, that in my Studio 57 time of prayer from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, I got to pray not only by myself, but just with other people. I would invite one person with me every single day to come and pray with me. And some people would come consistently every single week. Some people that did that was Zach Van Osdell and Steve Wood and Karen Wood and Ginger Case. There were so many other people that got to come and pray with me during that time as well that I can't even name them all. There's just so many, and I am so deeply thankful for every single person that was able to pray for me during that time. Almost every single prayer meeting that I had, every single day, I would pray this one prayer almost every single day. God, would you bring an awakening and a revival to my high school like no one has ever seen before. Father, bring the revivals that you've brought to other high schools to my high school. I want to see my high school come to know Jesus and fall in love with you. Another big part of my project that I wanted to do is I wanted to share my testimony with as many people as I possibly could. So I got to do all these different presentations about revivals and then times when prayer changed high schools around our nation. And then I got to share of just kind of what I've been doing in the prayer room, and I got to actually take surveys of the students as well on just where their social anxiety was, where their personal just discomfort overall during the day was, and then ask them for certain prayer requests. And I got to look at the data of things, and what was so interesting is when I first started praying, I took that survey, and the average was very, very low. My data was inconclusive because of the COVID-19 situation. I was not able to get my last couple data sets, but I can tell you this. Out of the data that I took, 3 out of 5 students said, I do not see purpose behind what I do. And then at the end, when I took my last data set in February, it decreased from 3 out of 5 to 1 out of 5 students says that they do not often find purpose behind what they do. That was their responses, and it actually decreased. Number 10 said on the verge of a breakdown, and 0 said peace and completely calm. And there was a lot of people that were on 10 and 8 and 6. And then my data set in February turned out people were around the 4, 2, and 1 area, majority of people. Then I got to have all of these awesome interviews with most of the teachers and most of the staff. I had one interview in my first trimester, and I was supposed to have another interview during the third trimester and the second trimester, but we just couldn't make those happen because of the circumstances. But the first interviews blessed my heart so much because I got to talk reality with teachers and what it is and the life of a teacher is actually like. And I would sit in conference rooms with teachers, and some of them would cry in the middle of us talking. Majority of teachers sadly said that they struggle with balancing their life outside of school and their life in school. They struggle with making time for their kids. And majority of the teachers said, it's like I have like 200 children that I see every single day. I have so many of them. And then I get to go home to more of them. And it's so hard to put school children in one box and then put my children in another and know when to take the box out. And I got to see into the lives of these teachers and these staff members and what they were going through. And they would open up to me about, honestly, things that I don't know if I would have opened up to a 17-year-old kid about. But because they were being asked those questions, they wanted to talk about it. They wanted to talk about these things with somebody. Now, most of this stuff would not be possible without one person in my life, and I would like to thank her so much. Her name is Ginger Case. And Ginger Case as well, she was our counselor and our facilitator for Club 412 for basically 3 years. And she will continue to be that person going forward. If I was to say, at the end of the day, who made Club 412 happen every single time, it wasn't me. It was Ginger Case for supporting me and supporting our leaders every single time. We would never be able to do Club 412. I would have never been able to do anything that I did without Ginger Case encouraging not only just me, but the leaders before me like Ben Wood and Tyra Chester and Zach Van Osdell and Mason Goodwater. I would have never been there, neither would they, if Ginger Case didn't not only just encourage us, but Ginger Case met with 4, 5, 6 other people every single Thursday, and she definitely prays a lot more than just on those days, but with those people, and she would walk around the school like the walls of Jericho with those people every single time, every single week, and the walls of the high school would break down every single time, and then there would be something just miraculous happen that week. Now, hearing all these stories is great, and it was so powerful that I got to be a part of the chapter that God was writing at College Place High School. But in all reality, something hit in my senior year, 2020, and I will never forget it. And COVID-19, coronavirus came, and the day of youth conference supposed to be happening, it was canceled because of coronavirus and everything that was going on. And then it just progressively got worse. We got told that Friday that we wouldn't be coming back to school for the next couple of weeks, and then it turns out that we wouldn't be going back at all, and it was hard. I spent the next couple of weeks after school was canceled crying, mourning, wrestling with God, feeling like I was cut off, like we were doing so good, Lord, and now it's all gone. I thought I had another couple months to help transition things and teach and disciple and mentor so that it would be ready for next year, but that was it. I think what I had to understand was that no, it was not cut off. My senior year at College Place High School was not cut off. because the Lord knew that we were not going to be able to go back to high school on that Friday. He knew. What follows is a couple of phone calls that I had with some of the teachers and staff at College Place High School.
In my opinion, in the last 2 years, just having you at the high school really kind of shaped a lot of the culture at the high school. I think of watching the size of Club 412 grow, especially over the course of this year. It was really good to see all the different variety of students. You had believers, non-believers, people just coming to get pizza. I mean, you really reached out to the whole school, and it truly, to me, it embodies what like a Christian youth organization club centered goal of just 100% inclusiveness. Like, I think that if you went to those meetings, you saw a really good sampling of what the student body in College Place High School was all about. Your genuine caring of how other people are. Like, you have a empathetic heart, and you are wanting to make sure other people are good. You genuinely care about other people. Your genuine desire to impact positively the places that you are. I feel like everywhere you went, you really tried to make it a community. Like, you interacted professionally with and honestly, and just with your teachers and with students alike. And your studio project, when you got up and shared all those things with your project, that's what I was really that's what I really took from that. Was like this was a real like, you're just genuine, man. Like, you're genuine. You don't paint a picture of being somebody you're not. Yeah, man, I've been suffering from like chronic back pain, which is rare, new to me. At that time, it had been going on for about 3 or 4 months, and it was just like a slow and steady ache, man, that just kind of started eating at me, man. And it was weird, because I remember you were like, "I'm gonna pray for your back," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, it's good," but my back's been hurting for so long, and it's weird, because it felt better. And since then, it's gotten way better, and I can't even think of the last time that my back ached like that. Yeah, it was really weird. I was real skeptical of it too. I was like, okay, cool, but I mean, I remember just sitting there and we prayed. I got up. I'm like, it does feel a little better. And then within a couple of days, I think I even told you, I'm like, Ben, this is kind of weird, man. My back feels okay.
You had an impact not only on student lives, but on staff lives. Being a Christian teacher, that it's really hard. I just found it really hard as a teaching certified staff member to really be able to impact kids' lives from a spiritual standpoint. And it's really encouraging to me when students take a leadership position, because they have so much more latitude with their classmates and the teacher with. And I just feel like you have, as a Christian student, have had a great impact on staff and students, because you've been genuine, you've been consistent, and you haven't been flaky. I think you did a lot of I thought you did a lot of planting, and the reaping may not be for some time. but that's okay. It spiritually impacts me when I see a young person taking a leadership role in the high school. Just like I said, because I just feel it's very difficult for me. I can't repeat what I already said. But I think me personally, you asking what I needed prayer for, usually it had to do with my brother. Then you were asking genuinely, wanted to know. I was making trips to the Midwest and Colorado and all that stuff. And it impacted me that he was genuinely interested in his condition and how things were going, because it's been like no. So I think that asking me what I needed prayer for, specifically as related to my brother, was probably the most impactful thing. One other thing I'd like to say to that too. Secondly, I sometimes have an issue with really sincerely stopping and taking the time to listen to people and what's going on. I get really busy, and it's not an excuse. And so it's good for me to see a young person setting that example, because me being older, I can still learn from somebody younger than me. You know, I'm not so proud that a teenager can show me something.
When Zach Van Ostel founded the Club 412, there were other faces a part of that group. And then I remember him coming down to Sager and telling me, that there's going to be other faces that are going to be running it. But you became that point person, and you became that the voice of it. And what I noticed was that you took upon this leadership, but you also had this inclusion with it. Your posters were so vibrant, and they were so uplifting, and they were very welcoming. And that's what I really liked, that it didn't matter whether you were religious or not. It was come have fun, come enjoy, time with others. The first person I thought of was, actually, you were one of the first people I thought of here in Walla Walla to, knowing that you would have prayed for me and what I was going through at that moment with my father going in for brain surgery. And it's really comforting to know that that I can actually look to a student for guidance. I can actually look to a student for support. It was incredible for me that in a moment of hard time, the first person I actually thought of was you and the club. It's actually very comforting knowing that we've got in our community someone as young as you that has that big of an impact on someone like myself that's a lot older than you. And and your email, you had sent an email earlier on to the staff, and it was the most beautiful, eloquently written email. I just saw a lot of the way you wrote things out and the way you presented yourself. It was very, very mature and very adult-like. And my uncle's been a priest for 60 years now. And to see a youngster with that same connection to God, and that same connection to the world, and just the understanding of times changing was very impactful. And but I thank you for that, because if it weren't for the way you have presented yourself at school, I would have never thought like that. And just the way that you reach out, not just, okay, thank you, have a nice day. It's, how can I help you? How can I service you? How can I support you? A lot of people don't do that kind of stuff, but it was very, very different with you. For example, when you said a prayer for me, for my thumb, when you said a prayer for my brother, for me, that was very comforting, knowing that you actually care for something as simple as my thumb, but you also care for something as difficult as my brother, who's currently going through cancer again, who's actually the now caregiver for my father, who just had his brain surgery. Again, when something, as difficult as my father having brain surgery a week ago, and the first person I think of is Ben Fernandez for a prayer, what I really like is that you not only would have done a prayer for yourself individually for me, but you also would have shared it to others, to a community of individuals that also would have reciprocated and shared their, or, they would have put in for a prayer for me. And then there were people that you were surrounding yourself with that were questioning, faith and stuff, and just your presence and just your words and your positivity, it really does impact those around you.
I think that you have been like hugely influential on like me specifically, but on a lot of teachers and definitely a lot of students. I mean, you got that selflessness and service award for a reason, because you are constantly bringing like light and positivity and like different perspectives to moments of darkness or struggle. And I think that like our overall culture at College Boys High School is more like warm because of the work that you did. As this was a pretty faith heavy project, I feel comfortable that I can say that like you have helped me like tackle and grapple with some feelings and confusions that I have had in terms of my faith, and made me like really think. The like dedication and like strong commitment, unwavering commitment that you have, right? Like you modeled that for me. And I really do feel like you have prayed for me over several things that have changed as a result of those prayers. I do believe that. I remember specifically, I had you pray over one specific friend of mine who was really, really sick. And like, it was like 2 days after I shared that with you and you prayed, like he was at the hospital. And it was like really scary and we did not expect that to happen. And I think I had you pray over like some like peace for a couple of our students who were really, really struggling, who are now thriving. Like, I don't know that I ever asked you specifically to pray for peace for me, but I think I asked for some sort of, I don't remember, I asked you to pray for some sort of emotion for me. And I just feel like every time I said something like specific and I could feel that sort of change take place.
Your impact, Ben, has been tremendous. I mean, from ASB to the work you're doing with Club 412 to just the positive presence you bring day in and day out to the school. I mean, I think that there isn't a teacher I've met here that can't, rave about how great you've been. And students, everybody kind of loves Ben Fernandez. You've had a good, tremendous sort of impact on the culture. And for me, like the big one is that you have grown a network, a club with 412 that has, like, every month I feel like exponentially gotten larger and larger. And what that does as a principal, when you think about the big important things for a successful school, you think about how great a student life and student culture is. And the more kids get into clubs and the more kids network and develop really strong and healthy peer relationships, like that's all you can really ask for. Because once you set that groundwork, then academics really flourishes. And your leadership and your passion for the club, I think, is really just grown a lot of other students' abilities to make healthy and wise choices, but also then feel connected to the school. Aside from that, I think about all the leadership and all the modeling of what it means to be a good academic student in your other classes, and the impact that you have there with other students that respect you and admire you, and just kind of getting to see, okay, well, Ben's going to tackle it this way, and I'm going to do that too. That's huge. That modeling of that behavior and that drive is just so important for students to see from their peers, because we can scream at the top of our lungs like, hey, this is what you need to be a good student, but when they see that and they're friends with that, I think that really shapes and molds a lot of kids' lives.
Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers in what you say, in the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity. 1 Timothy 4:12.